Hi everyone and welcome back to my channel. My name is Ray Maor. My website is raymaor.com. In this video, I'm going to show you why you like to complicate things. First is what is complexity. Simplicity versus complexity. There are more words in the English language to describe negativity. There are less words to describe happiness. For example, you have all the fear-based, all the hate, all the stress, all the envy. And in happiness, there are only like 5 or 6 different words to describe it. The same thing statistically with the subjects for research on psychology. There are 9 times more research on negativity or negative type of thinking versus happiness type of thinking and how it actually affects the body and the mind. So when we are talking about complex to simple, we understand that this is supposed to be
like this.
In other words, we are the ones that are actually complicating things. We, you, me, you know? And when we discover why we complicate things, then we become more aware of it. Number 1 is to understand that negativity is thriving much more than positivity. Positivity and simplicity are the natural state of being. So why do we like to complicate things? Number 1 is certainty versus uncertainty. Number 2, boredom, I'll write it as a short, versus interest, and excitement versus stress. Now, once you understand what I just explained, you're going to see how wonderfully you can change your life. All these things contrast, but in some way they run our life. Why? Because when we get too bored, we start looking for adventures. For example, marriage. Today, more than 50% of marriages end in a divorce. Why? People get bored. People don't really like working on themselves or on their relationship. So they're looking for excitement. Excitement is something new, like cheating. There's a balance point here. Certainty and uncertainty are also in contrast. In other words, when we know exactly what's going to happen in our job, when we know exactly who we're going to sleep with, when we know exactly what's going to happen tomorrow and the day after and in 5 years from now, then again, we get bored. We like to be creative. We like to do. The way that we grow is by change. The ego says the opposite. The ego says, stay as you are. Or you want to know everything because you're afraid of that change. But when we have the right balance between certainty and uncertainty, which is where we don't know what's going to happen, and we want to learn, and we want to grow, and we want to expand, and we want to maybe meet other people, or we want to experience different relationships, or we like to be creative by learning new types of art or whatever. Everyone is very unique and it's very individual. But these are the things that make us complicate our life because we want uncertainty to a degree. Too much uncertainty becomes stress, which is the opposite. We don't want stress, we want excitement, right? So we complicate things so we can get that excitement that we wanted, but then we find out
That we overdid it.
and then we become stressful about it. And then we have uncertainty. So it's really about cycles. And finding the balance, the way that you do it is by becoming more aware. Which points was it too much? At which points was it too little? How can I get to the 70 percentile where I'm also happy, I'm not stressed, I have my interest, I have my excitement. And this is where we find things that are much more simple. When we stop complicating things and we become more aware of these cycles that we have in our life. Each one can be in a completely different category in life. So some of them happen in our business life, others in our relationships, others in our personal development, with our love to ourselves. There's so many different labels that we can put on these, but this is where we complicate things. So the first thing that I recommend to do is assume responsibility. Responsibility. Example, our relationship that we have with our father or with our mother. Am I complicating things? Where does the stress come from? What happens when we answer the phone? What happens when we feel like they are judging us in some way? Are we doing it? Are they doing it? Is there something that we can do about what they are doing? Can we change that? When we assume responsibility for complicating our life, 100% responsibility. Responsibility comes in 2 factors. Number 1 is soul level. In other words, anything that happens in my life. It doesn't matter if it looks like a circumstance. I have asked for it to happen in my life so I can learn and benefit from it through a mirror. The second is emotional level. When I take complete responsibility for my emotional state, I no longer blame somebody else for the way that I feel. In other words, if my girlfriend or partner has cheated on me, I assume responsibility for the way I feel. Or if I see them flirting with someone on Facebook, then I know that I am jealous. It's not because of what they did. When I hate someone of course, I assume responsibility for that and I say, I choose to hate. I choose to be envy. I choose to be annoyed. I choose to be triggered. When you see that it's a choice, then you assume responsibility and then you don't blame other people for your emotional state. The opposite of what is happening right now in the world. Everybody is blaming other people for judging them, which is the opposite of growth. Number one, we assume responsibility and then we become aware to where we complicate things in our life. Now, when we become more aware of those patterns and where we complicate things and we assume that responsibility, you will see that a lot of things simply come up to the surface to be recognized and healed. There's one last part, which is the ego, which is derived from the mental body. Unlike people who work on themselves quite a lot, where the ego becomes the intuition, which is derived from the spiritual body. Of course, it's a process. You cannot expect that in 1 second this will become that. But slowly the ego becomes intuition, so you don't think that much and you don't protect and you don't act out of fear. And slowly the mental body, the belief system, the logic moves towards the spiritual body, again, which comes from your intuition. Less thinking, less critical, less negativity even. The ego's job here as a construct is to protect us from any change whatsoever. Therefore, the ego likes to complicate things. The ego doesn't like to take responsibility. The ego doesn't like for us to change anything at all because it cannot predict what is about to happen after that change. So it enforces us to have opinions. It forces us to stay where we are. If it's a bad relationship, if it's a negative vibe with a friend, the ego is that thing that argues as well. Pay close attention to your ego. Just notice how your ego likes to complicate things and you're allowing it to complicate things. Your spiritual body likes simplicity. In that simplicity, you will find the excitement. You don't have to know everything that's about to come. You can live in a balance between the certainty and the uncertainty that life grants you. But your spirit likes simplicity. It likes to meditate. It likes to spend time in nature. It likes to have positive, easy thinking thoughts. Your ego will not allow that simplicity to occur because it likes things to be rattled just a little bit. And this is where the world is right now. You can choose to be where the world is, or you can choose to be more spiritual, more in harmony with nature, and more simple in your life. Thank you very much for watching and staying with me all the way to the end, my friend. If you enjoyed this video, please like it, subscribe, check out Maor.com where you can see some of my online workshops.